Hi, I'm David Luong of the Kid Clown Kicker podcast, and this is my movie review for Batman v Superman. It's a little bit after 11 p.m. right now on March 24th, and I just literally stepped out of the theater having watched Batman vs Superman. I managed to catch a early showing, as it were, because I know the movie officially premieres tomorrow on the 25th. So literally just stepped out of the theater. Like I said, I'm just movie very, very fresh in my mind. By the way, this is going to be a movie review where I'm going to go into some detail about the film, so plenty of spoilers. So if you haven't watched the movie yet and you don't want anything spoiled, stop listening to this right now, pause, go out, watch the movie, then come back and listen to my review. At any case, so spoiler warning now officially out of the way. Just to get it out of the way, I pretty much dislike the film. Actually, I was going to say that I absolutely hated it, and maybe that's a bit strong, but I do remember that there were points. I will have to admit, there were points throughout the movie where I was like, oh my god, this might be the worst superhero movie I have ever seen. And then that was soon replaced by, oh my god, this might be one of the worst movies I have ever seen. So where do I begin? First off, I do want to say that I don't want to come off like I'm jumping on the bandwagon. I just want to troll the film for the sake of trolling the film. I know, and I think I mentioned in one of our previous Kid Clown Kicker podcast episodes, it's become very popular these days to basically shit on DC movies and what Warner Brothers has done with their superhero movies. But I don't want to jump on that because I will admit I did like Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern. I might be one of the few people who did. So I've tried coming into Batman versus Superman fairly open-minded. So yeah, I definitely don't want to just jump on the bandwagon and troll it. But that said, even jumping in as open-minded as I was about the movie, I just came out of it never wanting to watch another Warner Brothers superhero movie ever again. If I had to identify one core problem with Batman v Superman, it's that I don't feel like Warner Brothers learned a damn thing from the poor reviews that Man of Steel got. To me, Batman vs Superman had pretty much all the problems that Man of Steel had, but somehow came off even worse, even more charmless. The number one problem, a lot of Batman v Superman hinges on you liking Superman. The motivations are clearly based on the occurrences of Man of Steel, the presence of this omnipotent alien being who basically is acting as a superhero on the planet Earth, and all the political, social fallout that occurs from that. And because of that, because all the characters' motivations, from Luthor to Batman to Lois's, everything that they do is basically supposed to revolve around Clark. It really is dependent on you liking Superman and believing in him as this superhero, this guy who wants to do good, this person whose presence is that he's out there saving people and people just don't understand him. But to me, I mean, Superman throughout the whole movie just comes off as this whole almost apathetic character. There's even one point, and again, this review has a lot of spoilers, so turn it off now if you don't want to hear any of these, but very, very early on in the movie, right after Superman saves Lois from the terrorist, and you're led to believe that because of what he did, it causes a whole chain of events that leads to even more problems in that area. There's a point where Lois, she's in the bathtub and she's saying to Clark, "Oh, they're talking about you," and he says something to the effect of, "Yeah, I don't really care." And you're thinking, no, hold on. You should care about this in some degree. I mean, if you're angry that they're saying these things about you, or you're sad they're saying these things about you, but you don't want to just say, oh, I don't care what they're saying about me. You don't want to come off as an apathetic character. Because that was one of the big problems with Man of Steel, that Superman didn't go out saving people, that he was almost an apathetic character, that you didn't know what his motivations were. Did he want to help people? Did he want to protect the planet Earth? No, he just comes off as like, I don't care. I don't know. I'm just here. And they tried later sprinkling bits of that, like, oh, this is my planet. Later when they're fighting Doomsday, but it just fell flat because throughout the whole movie, Superman just comes off as not caring. He just doesn't really want to do anything. So that was definitely the number one problem for me for this movie. I just didn't care about Superman in any way whatsoever. I just couldn't find myself wanting to like him. And by the way, side note, Superman is one of my favorite DC comic book characters. And I will say that I've tried liking the Warner Brothers Superman movies. Heck, when Superman Returns with Brandon Routh came out years ago, I was super jazzed for that. I didn't hate it as much as some other people do, but I was disappointed. Then Man of Steel came out, and I really wanted to like that film. I got disappointed, and this pretty much put the nail in the coffin that at this point I can't find myself getting excited about Superman in movies anymore, just because the Superman that they've created in Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman comes off as this stony-faced brute who just doesn't seem to sympathize with anyone, who doesn't seem to have any real connections, who's just apathetic. From there, I mean, honestly, not a lot of the other characters in the movie, kind of, I just didn't find myself liking them either. Lois, for instance, Lois Lane, by the way, one of the greatest supporting characters in comic books ever. Someone who, in the comic books, has been represented as this fantastic journalist who's strong-willed, who, while she's a supporting character for Superman, has always come up with her own motivations, has been a very independent character, very strong character. In this movie, she just doesn't do much. In fact, I counted it out. I think there are 3 different occurrences in this movie where Superman has to save her, almost devolving Lois Lane from the strong, independent journalist character to the stereotypical damsel in distress. There's the part where there's the beginning where she's kidnapped by the terrorists. She has to be saved by Superman. There's a part where Lex pushes her off the tower. She has to be saved by Superman. There's a part where she almost drowns. She has to be saved by Superman. This doesn't tell me that she's a strong, independent character. It tells me that she's stupid because she keeps on getting into these situations where Superman keeps on having to save her. So Lois just comes off as like a horrible character with just absolutely no real purpose other than to try to defend Superman from this frame up, which I guess would be okay, but she just doesn't come off as a fully fleshed out character unto herself. I'm still not even sure why Lois and Clark are in a relationship within this movie universe that they've created. And yes, I know people are saying, well, it's because they're Clark Kent and Lois Lane. They should be together. Well, I'm going to call bullshit on that because it's the same problem I had with Man of Steel, and it's the same problem I have with Batman versus Superman. I don't know why these two are in love. There's never any story arc, never any character arc that tells me that these two characters were meant for each other, that these two characters are lost souls that have found each other. No, it's just we crammed them together because they're Clark and Lois and they have to be in a couple, which just makes both of them seem much weaker characters. Now, I do want to get in some positives. Speaking of our protagonists, Ben Affleck's Batman, and I since the beginning I haven't been as down on Ben Affleck as some commentators have been. I know a lot of people just have hated the idea of Ben Affleck being Bruce Wayne, but I thought he did a fairly decent job. I don't think it was anything to write home about. I don't think he was by any means the best Batman that was ever on the big screen, but by that same token, I don't think he was the worst Batman on the big screen. He was completely serviceable. He was just, and I this is going to sound like a bit of backhanded compliment, but he was mediocre. And I mean that in the sense that he was so average that he was just there. He did everything you expect Batman to do. When he's Bruce Wayne, he's, the handsome playboy, millionaire, billionaire, whatever. And when he's Batman, he's the gruff-voiced vigilante. All the things you expect, but nothing particularly special. Wonder Woman, and again, this is spoilers, but I think everybody knows at this point Wonder Woman does pop up in this movie. Actually, quick little story about that. It's kind of funny. I think probably 90% of the audience who I watched the movie with were aware that Wonder Woman was going to be in this film just because it's been spoiled for everybody. The images got released. Basically, Warner Brothers didn't really keep it a secret that Wonder Woman was going to show up in the movie. She was in the trailers as well. But there's always that small percentage of people who didn't know that. And you did get the audible gasp when people realized, oh, shit, that's Wonder Woman. So that said, again, Wonder Woman, she felt like a work in progress. They introduced her. There's some cool moments where there's a picture of her during World War One that Bruce Wayne uncovers. That was kind of cool. When she shows up for the Doomsday fight, there were bits and pieces over there that suggest to me that this character can be fleshed out. So Wonder Woman, again, nothing to write home about necessarily. By no means a horrible addition to the movie. She did feel a little bit crammed in, and I'm going to get to that in a bit. But they did a serviceable job of introducing her into the DC universe, enough to make me curious about the upcoming Wonder Woman movie, if for no other reason than try to wash out the taste of Batman versus Superman from my mouth. And I might be contradicting what I said earlier. I did say earlier that basically Warner Brothers scared me from any other superhero movies. But heck, maybe I'll give Wonder Woman more of a shot just based on the strength of her scenes in the movie. So not bad on Wonder Woman's part. But I think the best part of the movie character-wise was actually Perry White and those little moments you got in the Daily Planet. That's the kind of stuff I did like when Clark and Perry are arguing about what is news or what should go out on the paper, or when Perry White's just dropping like little lines in there, like telling Lois that she has to fly coach. Just little things like that, or even him asking, "Hey, where's Clark go all day?" That's the kind of stuff I do want to see in a Superman movie, just because it grounds Superman a little bit. It gives him a stronger supporting cast, and that helps flesh out Superman, which, like I mentioned earlier, was a big problem that I didn't care about Superman. But if you gave him more scenes in the Daily Planet, where he's acting more like Clark Kent, where he's being more of a journalist, where he's really showing his compassion towards people and getting good news stories out because there's a bigger he has a bigger social conscience. That's the kind of thing that would have made me care more about Superman. And I thought Lawrence Fishburne did a fantastic job as Perry White, so I would definitely have liked to have seen more of that. Unfortunately, the scenes with Perry White and the Daily Planet were few and far between, so not a lot of that. Unfortunately, because I really did like that. Last note I have to say about characters is that unfortunately, all my fears about Jesse Eisenberg playing Lex Luthor turned out to be true. I have to admit, when I first heard that Eisenberg was cast as Luthor, I was a little skeptical. Then I tried to be a little more optimistic, and then the trailers came out, and I got scared again. And then coming into the movie, I was thinking, okay, well, maybe this will be better than I think. I'm going to be pretty open-minded. I want to see what Eisenberg can do as Lex, and it turned out to be just absolutely horrible. I don't even know where to begin. That character was a mess. I felt like Jesse Eisenberg was trying to play Lex Luthor as this sort of quirky, insane, young billionaire, whatever. But it fell flat. It just almost came off as a bad Joker impersonation, which is definitely not what I wanted to see. And I'm not even talking about coming in there with preconceptions about how Lex Luthor should act, because I tried to be super open-minded about that. If Eisenberg wants to be a different, quote-unquote, a different type of Lex Luthor than what we've seen in other movies, fair enough. But he just came off as almost non-threatening. Like, why is this guy a match for Superman? Heck, why was this version of Lex Luthor able to manipulate both Batman and Superman so well? Because he just comes off as a goofball. He just comes off as this like quirky, non-threatening figure who is so utterly insane. I mean, I could have probably been much more of a threat to Batman and Superman than Lex Luthor could have been. So I thought, again, another weak point was Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I just thought it was absolutely horrible. Outside of all the characters, and I've just gone through talking about how much I didn't like the characters, or at least a good portion of the characters in the movie. I thought the dialogue was just pretty bad. I mean, there were moments where I had to pause myself and ask, wait a minute, who actually talks like that? One example is when Batman's fighting Superman and Batman's choking with his boot and is about to drive the kryptonite spike into Superman. Superman says, "Save Martha." And of course, that flashes back to Bruce and how his mom was named Martha and makes him pause and what have you. But if you're in Superman's boots, why would you call your own mother by her first name? Wouldn't a more likely line have been something like, "Save my mother," or please, if he wanted to, I don't know, it didn't seem like he wanted to conceal his identity, because I think by then everybody knew that Superman was Clark, or I should say Batman knew that Superman was Clark. But wouldn't have, if he, let's say that he wanted to almost speak from the third person so that Batman wouldn't link Martha to him, couldn't he have just said something like, save Martha Kent? But who just says save Martha? Who calls their mother by their first name? The easy, snarky answer for that is that they just did that so they could basically in a very ham-fisted manner, draw the line between, oh wait, Batman's mom is named Martha. He wasn't able to save his mother when she got shot. Oh, this is just like his mom. Oh, they're both like this, very similar to one another. And that was just absolutely, absolutely weak. I mean, another example I have about, who talks like that is when Superman, so basically Superman's manipulated by Lex to, kill Batman so that his mom will be saved, which, by the way, shows that Lex knows Superman's identity. So if Lex really wanted to screw around with Superman, why not just reveal his identity to the public? But oh well, again, another weak plot hole in the movie, I guess. But the moment Superman lands down, he's trying to say to Batman, hey, we have no time, you have to help me. And of course Batman starts attacking him. But you keep on thinking that throughout the whole fight, at any time, Superman could have literally, instead of saying, we don't have time to talk, the first line that could have come out of his mouth was, hey, Batman, I need your help saving a woman. If we keep on fighting, she's going to die. I'm sure Batman would have paused and said, okay, let me hear what you have to say for that. Instead, Superman just goes in there. He just the generic superhero lines. Oh, we don't have time to do this. I don't have time to explain. Well, yeah, you do, Superman. You have time to explain. You just say, just spit it out. Just spit it out. Just say something like, there's a woman in danger. I need your help. I'm not fucking around. I'm sure Batman would have said, okay, you have 5 seconds. Explain this one to me. Instead, no, we got this meaningless motivational fight with a complete lack of motivation. And that's just yet again just another negative point of the movie. I felt like a lot of the characters, I didn't get their motivation. I felt there were snippets of it there that they wanted to squeeze in, but they just couldn't pull the trigger. Like Superman throughout, I mentioned it earlier, he just comes off as apathetic to me throughout the whole movie. I don't know why he wants to help people. In fact, at some points, he just doesn't want to help people. Right after the explosion after the hearing, he just decides to go fly up to wherever he does, the Arctic or what have you. And clearly, he's not out there to explain himself. He's not out there to help mourn the victims. He just disappears. He just disappears because he has no motivation. He doesn't come off as a guy who wants to help people. Batman's motivations, they were trying to squeeze in, oh, well, Superman's caused all these problems. I have to get him because if there's even a 1% chance he's against us, we have to take him out now. It's kind of, I don't get you, Batman. I mean, they tried really hard to show us that directly one of his buildings collapsed as a result of the fight during Man of Steel. They tried showing us that he's a guy who looks at the big picture and looks at the human cost of keeping Superman around. But just during his fight with Superman, when he's basically about to stab Superman through the heart, kill someone, which is a strange thing for Batman to do, to kill another living being, but oh well. He just comes off as like, his logic is flawed. I mean, if he really wanted to take care of Superman or get him out of the way, it just seems more likely that he probably would have in some way more logically manipulated him or something to that effect, not just blindly go into a fight because Lex Luthor fooled him into doing all these sort of things. So bad motivation. And I already mentioned I wasn't very fond of Lois's motivation throughout the movie. Again, she came off as a character who existed solely to protect Clark, but didn't really have any strong motivations by herself, which is a far cry from the independent journalist that I'm used to seeing in Lois. I suppose the strongest character motivations we got were Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. He does mention briefly his father was born in East Germany. He came from a poor background, so he has a lot of distrust towards authority figures or basically unchecked power. I could kind of see what they were doing with Lex, but again, Eisenberg's almost overly quirky, overly I just want to say bizarre rendition of Luthor took away a lot of that motivation. It distracted me a lot from that. In any case, there's a lot more to talk about. There's a lot more things to say about this movie. But just quickly, I did want to actually go through some of the pros before I seal this up. Like I said before, Batman, he was presentable. I don't know how else to put that. He was harmless. Ben Affleck's rendition of the character, not super great, but not super bad either. I'd say the same thing about Wonder Woman. She's a work in progress. I'm interested in seeing what they might do with her in her own solo movie. And oddly enough, I did actually think of one other pro. Ben Affleck can now officially say that Daredevil is not the worst superhero movie he's ever been in, because now he's been in Batman vs Superman, which is by far one of the worst superhero movies that I've ever seen. So Ben Affleck, you can look at Daredevil with a little bit more pride now. But then again, those are some of the pros. Like I said, the cons were just poor characters. I felt the bad motivations. Like I didn't get any of the characters' motivations throughout. The movie did feel very crammed. You could tell that they were just trying to build the DC universe out of this. There are little cameo bits with the Flash, Cyborg, Aquaman, the aforementioned Wonder Woman. Very, very clear that they want this to be a Justice League. There's appearance with parademons, actually, that they squeezed in there. And they clearly wanted to lead towards another storyline where Superman goes bad when the Flash appears to Bruce in his dream. Which, by the way, I do want to go on a little bit of a tangent on that one. There is a sequence where, and we're led to believe that it might be one of Bruce Wayne's dream sequences, but I feel that it was also a nod to a future show that they want to do where Flash is warning Bruce that basically Superman would turn villainous at some point, saying something to the effect of, "You were right about him all along." And then we do see Batman's nightmare sequence as well in the film where where there's that experience where we see this post-apocalyptic landscape where Superman's clearly gone crazy, and he mentions, "Oh, because you let my world die, you let her die," which I'm assuming it's Lois Lane. In some future movie or what have you. So it looks like they want us to go down that trail. But the fact is that we just saw a movie where Batman fought Superman. So do we need to see another movie where everybody's fighting Superman again? I don't think so. Because they already shot that bullet out of the gun. We've already seen a movie where Superman is where Batman has to fight Superman. So if they're teasing us that in the future, oh, well, Superman might go evil, so we have to fight Superman again, we just saw it. We just saw superheroes fighting Superman. I don't need to see it in a future movie. I didn't like it the first time he showed it to me in Batman vs. Superman. Why would I be interested in seeing it again, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 movies down the road? I'm not interested in seeing it. So it was a horrible tease. But to try to drive back from that tangent, the movie just felt crammed because of everything that they were trying to squeeze in there. All the little cameos from the superheroes, the whole idea of the formation of the Justice League, little cutesy cameos like the parademons. It just felt like they wanted to put everything in that movie just to say, hey, look, we're trying to build our own universe to compete with the Marvel universe, but it just felt so forced. I didn't even, and by the way, I'm have so many other cons to go. It's a laundry list. The other con I want to mention is that Doomsday just turned out to be this horrible mess of a villainous character. Just a horrible mess. You could tell that they put Doomsday there just so that the superheroes would have a bigger threat to fight at the end, so they could all team up, which is cliche, and I can't knock them for that necessarily. I mean, I guess that's obligatory. It's not like we really expected Batman and Superman to be enemies until the end of the film. Of course, they have to team up and fight the bigger threat. That's just how it goes. But all the same, I mean, I was just so disappointed by seeing Doomsday, both in terms of design and just in terms of the way the fight looked. I do sometimes have this problem where when in superhero movies in particular, when you have these big hulking CGI characters, that it starts turning into something that looks like a video game on the screen, but just one where you don't have a pad to play with, you don't have a controller to play with, so it just takes you out of it. And that was my problem with Doomsday. It just turned out to be this big gray blob on the screen that all the other superheroes fought, and there's obligatory explosions and punches, and it just turned out to be just an uninteresting fight scene. Like, if I didn't like Man of Steel, but there's one good thing about it. It was the Zod Superman fight towards the end. I thought that was fabulous. This movie doesn't have that. This movie has Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman fighting this big green mess, and basically it almost came off as a poorly choreographed fight scene. Just them fighting this big CGI that didn't look overly impressive to me, and ultimately, and it could just be me, I could just have the old man eyes, but it was just very hard to follow fight scene. And I will say that in general, the look of the film I wasn't fond of. I would dare say that something like 99% of the film takes place once the sun has set. It's such a dark movie. And I don't mean that tonally dark, although it was tonally very dark. But just in terms of the look of the film, it was just so dark to the point where you couldn't see anything. Whereas it's a very uninteresting palette to the film, very unappealing. And I gotta admit, for a superhero movie, you don't want that. For a superhero movie, I'm not necessarily saying that they need to go ultra bright or shiny, but you don't want your characters all to be in the shadows. That's fine for Batman. That fits his character. But for characters like Superman and Wonder Woman, yeah, you do want to see them out in the sunlight occasionally. You want to see them be these big, bright, colorful, larger-than-life characters. And we just didn't get that because we're just stuck in shadows. We're stuck in the night. You can't see anything. So, again, I have a whole list of things that I didn't like about the movie. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm trying to end on a positive note now. See, I guess the fact that I just had a pause shows you that I'm struggling to find the good coming out of this movie, because this really was Warner Brothers' attempt to create a franchise, to create their own version of the Marvel universe with the DC characters, to create this whole connected superhero universe. And I just feel like it fell flat on its face. It just fell absolutely flat on its face. Even the little cutesy cameos and teases, like I said, with Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman, it seems so forced. It just seems so forced to the point where I'm just not looking forward to any of those movies. I'm sorry, but I'm not looking forward to watching The Flash. I love Aquaman to death, but at this point, I'm not really looking forward to that movie. I mean, the most I can say is just, I guess I am I'm interested in Wonder Woman, but I'm not greatly interested in it. But okay, I'll give you that. Cyborg, just another character I'm not interested in. So I don't know if this movie really fulfilled the purpose that it was set out to do. I mean, if the ultimate purpose of the movie was to set up a series of Justice League films to follow, I have to admit, I don't feel it did a great job. And I feel bad about it, because when you have a premise like Batman versus Superman, the two most well-known superhero characters in comic books, period. Like, if you've never ever read a comic book, you know who Batman is. If you've never ever read a comic book, you know who Superman is. It's a great premise, and I feel like they dropped the ball. And I gotta admit, I'm just hugely, hugely disappointed. So that said, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, please leave a comment on the YouTube page. I'm sure that at our next group podcast on Kid Clown Kicker, we'll have a nice group discussion. I know Gerardo and Phil and Isa at this point haven't seen it yet, so I'm looking forward to hearing what their opinions on the movie is, and I'm looking forward to discussing it with them. So that should be coming up in a future episode of Kid Clown Kicker, when we will have a roundtable discussion with regards to Batman v Superman. But just as for my own individual review, I just completely dislike the movie. I'm no good at scoring, but if I were to score it 1 out of 10, I'd say that this movie is a 6, if that. I'm almost tempted to give it like a 5 or a 4, just because of the level of disappointment and just how badly I felt it went. So there you go. That's my review. And once again, maybe give me a week to sit on it. Maybe I'll be a little softer by then. But just coming straight out of the theater, I just felt horribly disappointed. And I got bored during portions of the movie, which is never good. In any case, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I hope you like listening to this review. If you did, please give us a like and please follow us on our YouTube page. You can also find more of our podcasts on our YouTube page or on our official website at www.unitedgeekfederation.wordpress.com. Along with our Kid Clown Kicker Geek Roundtable podcast, we also now have Trek Rant, which are just short rants about Star Trek related topics. And we do hope to be adding more podcasts as time goes by. Also, a few more movies are coming out this summer, which I hope to offer more reviews for once I watch them. So again, hope you enjoyed this. I hope you keep listening to our podcasts. So take care.